Hello again and welcome to my channel. This is Stephen Dupree of NowEnergetics.com based on YUEN Method. And we're going to talk a little bit about an area of neutrality. As you may know, I have two different websites. I have the Now Energetics website, which is really mostly YUEN Method, and the Power of Neutrality site, which is the neutrality side of this work. That's a separate site. They kind of look similar, but they have some similarities and some different materials as well. But one of the things that we talk about a lot with both YUEN Method and neutrality is this paradox of positive thinking. So I wrote this article some time ago to talk about some of the imbalances that we have in our energy that we don't even realize we have. We're told by many methods and gurus to focus on the positive and all these things. And these are all, sort of advice that we get over time, either conventionally or in some of the alternative practices. But what we really need to examine before we look at that layer is to really just see where our energy is at that moment. So this article I wrote some time ago, when I read an article on LinkedIn that was talking about, and LinkedIn often has these articles that when you feel into it energetically, it's just the opposite of what people say it is, whatever they're writing about. So that's kind of what happened here. I read the article and I said, well, let me check this out energetically if this is really what the case is here. So why don't we go over this now? So the quote from the article is, over 85% of most people's thoughts are negative. And so when we look at that kind of statement or thought, we have to sort of, at least in our work, we have to examine it energetically. So, and, you could profile even the person that wrote this article in terms of where their energy was when they wrote the article. But, in a very broad sense, it's the notion that we have to program ourselves to be more positive. So that's kind of what the article was talking about, is that, we have so many negative thoughts that affect us that we really need to, focus more on the positive. And there are other articles that are similar, whether, across the web, not just in this particular article, but my point was of looking at this was, it just didn't, when I was feeling into it, it just didn't seem right from an energetic standpoint. So it didn't pass the energetic sniff test, in my opinion. So, and not in my opinion, I checked the energy. So, this could be accurate for some people. It depends on the person. So you can make some generalizations. You can take a group of people and say, well, does this apply to this group of 100 people? Or you can go at the individual level, does this apply to this particular person? So this could actually be true for some people. So it's not that we're going to discount this totally, because, you have to check the energy in all these cases. But the actual effect for most people that are told they got to worry about this sort of negative thought, whether there's negative thoughts, they have negative thinking in general, it just doesn't pass the sniff test. So, and the idea is that when I feel into it, the fact that you just have a negative thought or thoughts doesn't mean it affects your energy, right? If your energy is already strong to that, if you're already neutral with negative thoughts, what it means is that's not where the problem is, right? So we're back to YUEN Method, and whatever you think it is or say it is not what it is. If it's strong, that's not what it is. So for most people, the notion of having negative thoughts at times, they're already strong to that. So we've talked about this before in other videos, is that most people already have the catastrophic events and thoughts and experiences covered. The notion that everything could go wrong, the shoe's going to drop. We think about that so much, it's so much in our energy already, and we can get that from our own experiences, from ancestors, from previous lifetimes, if you believe in that. But we already have that base covered, so to speak, if we want to use a baseball parlance. So that's not what it is. And so that we're told conventionally by these folks and some of these alternative people that want to think that they can just focus on the positive and that's going to solve the problem. Well, the problem is you're actually dragging the anchor of the strength of the negative energy, because that's really what's manifesting, right? It's where your energy is. So we haven't really talked about this too much, but when you have that much energy on one side of a duality, a positive and negative, in this case on the negative side, that's the energy it uses to manifest things. So if you have no energy on the positive side, which is what this sort of discussion's about in this particular case, and you have all your energy on the negative side, you swear you didn't have your energy on the negative side. You swear you're trying to be positive, consciously, but unconsciously in your internal programming, in your internal experiences, in your internal energy, it's about 99% negative energy, not, just negative thoughts and experience, but the energy of that unconsciously is what's, driving the car, is running the show, so to speak. That's the energy for your manifestation, is in the unconscious energy. That's really what's perpetuating and manifesting and creating these experiences for you, is where the energy is. So when we talk about people are not, for many, negative thoughts don't affect our energy. What I mean by that is you already have so much energy on that side that, putting one grain of sand on the beach is not going to matter that much, because you already have so much there. So that's what I mean about it doesn't really affect our energy, because there's already so much energy there on the negative side of things, right? So that's already strong, so to speak. And so that is kind of manifesting some things for us, but the fact that it's strong and you're already neutral to all the negatives is that's probably not where the problem is. That's most likely and definitely not where the problem is for most people. So but we're taught that negative side is the problem, right? So it's really not. It's really just where the energy is in an unbalanced way, and we want to do is get more energy on the positive side, and not just the conscious thinking about it. Well, I'm going to try to be more positive, but actually shifting the energy so those two opposites and everything in between is just completely even, right? So again, we're talking about a deck of cards and having the ability to pick any card out of the deck. They're all the same to you, right? The positive or the negative. In this case, we're trying to at least identify that we have an imbalance here, but it's not what we think it is, right? So and that's what happens when we use our logic, right? We automatically focus on, we're told not to focus on the negative, to focus on the positive, but we're not told what we need to do to strengthen our energy so those two are even, right? So there's a lot of collective consensus beliefs or opinions, and the real truth of this is, if you figured it out, you would no longer have a problem, right? That's the Dr. YUEN kind of broken record, is that if you knew your problem, you wouldn't have a problem. So whatever you think it is, that you should be focusing more on the positive. Well, there's, you have to do some things to get the energy to be more even on the positive side before you can manifest things that are more positive, let's say. So I go over that a little bit in this article here. So we may do a couple of parts on this, because this is a very, very common thing that people struggle with in their lives, about the positive negative duality. And most people conventionally would get this wrong. They would not be checking their energy. They wouldn't even be thinking about their energy or their experiences and how that affects them, the manifestation of what they see in their life. So we're not going to make any educated guesses here, okay? We're going to use energetic testing. We're going to check the energy, and we want to gauge what's really affecting us, whether it be mentally or physically or spiritually. And we need to intuit this from our own energy. We're not going to go read this in a book, and we're not going to Google it or something. We're going to look at our own energy in all these cases. We're not going to make any prejudgments, not just a judgment and assumption, but it's a prejudgment and a pre-assumption of what we think the answer is, right? That all the negatives that we're thinking about are bad. No, they're just strong. They just have a neutral energy about them. That means that that's not the issue, right? So we have a couple examples here. Again, we're mostly neutral with negative thoughts, though that's not where we need to focus on changing our energy. So I have two examples here. So our focus on sort of the thought of the negative side would kind of keep our eye off the ball, so to speak, right? So that's where I have these two examples. I talk about, the first example is if you have a negative thought, you could trigger the opposite, which is the positive. And, you think that that's actually solving the problem because it supplies energy, but there's the positive side is actually weak. And a lot of people will suppress the negative. So what's typically happening in these cases is we're so weak to the positive side of things that we're avoiding it with very, very strong energy. We're getting pulled toward that side consciously, but we're actually trying to suppress or avoid the positive so much that kind of creates a boomerang energy backwards, and we have a huge reaction to that. So for most people in this situation where their energy is totally on the negative side and no support for the positive outcomes, they may question, why would a positive thought be detrimental? And when we look at the energy just from an energy standpoint, their energy is weak on that side anyway. But they're trying to override the conventional thinking that says, well, anything positive has to be good, right? So that's what this block quote is here. The conventional assumption or theory is that the positive, joy, love, laughing, positive expectations could never be the real issue creating our symptoms. The fact that we have no energy on the positive side of the equation and all of our intrinsic energy on the negative side, that could never be the issue. The fact that we have no energy to support the positive outcome, right? So that we can't force that by just assuming conventionally that those things are just kind of inherently part of every human being, and what seems to be the problem. No, a lot of people have very, very bad associations with positive things, and a good example is if you can imagine a situation where you told the truth at a certain time or laughed at a certain time, and it wasn't a positive experience. You actually got punished for it. If you showed some kind of positive expectation or like I said, joy or laughing at the wrong time, it can be a very negative experience in many cases. So it's kind of a conventional assumption that that's the case, but most of us have experiences our energy where the positive, what we quote unquote positive, was not a good experience for us. So we're kind of avoiding it for that kind of reason. It could be in our energy, but also could be in our experiences that we have those kind of experiences. But what I talk about here is the kind of scarcity mentality that we're programmed with. And many times it's a cultural thing, it's a family thing, it can be a religious thing. This notion of a scarcity mentality on this earth is we will always accept the negative without question, right? We always are ready. And this is what I mean about being prepared for the worst outcome. We're already strong to that. We have so much energy there that we accept the negative without question. And the other side of that, unfortunately, and the reason why our positive side is so weak is that our programming is that we can only expect certain short glimpses of the positive before things go to hell again, right? So that's been the human experience, is that we're so programmed that the positive can only exist for a very short time when things turn south again for a longer period. So we're used to things being bad for a long time, and we only get short glimpses of the good, right? And it always switches back, right? So as soon as we get a little bit of positive in there, we're already thinking something's going to go wrong. We're already getting discouraged, disappointed, disillusioned, or demoralized because we know things are going to happen that are going to be bad for longer periods, or not know, let's say, but we believe that, intrinsically in our energy. So it's often the anticipation, expectation, something positive happening that could immediately trigger something could go wrong. This is the shoe's going to drop situation there. This is why we avoid the positive, because we're anticipating as soon as we get pull in a little bit of positive, we pull on that thread, we're immediately going to get a boomerang. We're going to get hit with the sledgehammer, right? So that we hesitate and we avoid and we resonate. And what I say here is we perpetuate, attract, or create experiences of good things don't last. So even if we have a positive experience, we've already pre-programmed it so that it's not going to last very long, right? Because that shoe's going to drop. So we want to be neutral. So the point of that discussion is that we want to be neutral to the positive anticipation, right? We want to be neutral to any outcome. That's the point. And we want to even out the positive and negative so we can look at things very evenly And again, that deck of cards, we're picking any particular experience, and we're not biased or weighting any one experience more important energetically than any other experience, right? And that's going to give us the best chance of actually having a positive outcome, and a positive outcome that will actually, last for longer periods of time because the energy supports it. So the point of doing all this work is we're deleting the energy of those negative experiences before and ahead of the time, and at the same time as evening out the positive energy so that they're even. All the experiences. Neutral is all about being the same energy of all the positive, all the negative experiences, everything in between, right? So we want to get our energy there, where before we had absolutely no energy on the positive. We actually have some energy there. It's actually spread out very widely, but we have some energy there, so something new can manifest. So that's the whole point of neutrality, right? It's a very paradoxical thing that we even out energy to get a different outcome, but it's really what happens, when we change the energy in that situation to be more even. And then there's no intrinsic focus on the negative, because that negative energy is no different than any other energy, right? And we can't even say negative, so to speak, because negative and positive are very subjective. In the space of time, something that starts off negative could become very positive. Something that starts off positive could be very negative. So we don't try to label it that way, but because we have the language, we don't have any choice. We have to use those words, right? So the second example here is the typical situation where a person's trying to be positive and they won't admit it to themselves, but they have all these negative energy about them, and they're actually attracting these positive experiences that are really informing them that that's where their energy is weak, right? It's the universe's way of saying, hey, your problem is not the negative here, it's that you have no energy on the positive side. So in a way, we're attracting these positive experiences, but sometimes they're positive experiences that are outside of us. Like people, we can attract people that maybe seem positive to us, and it bothers the hell out of us, right? We won't admit it, that Jim just got a new job and a new car, and it's a great thing, and they're telling you this, and the whole time you're trying to be positive, but underneath it all, you're kind of pissed off, and why not me? You're doing the Eeyore thing. So that's kind of this experience. The second example is that intrinsically your energy is kind of rejecting that positive experience from the outside, right? So that's a telltale sign that you have a weakness on the positive side, because you're avoiding that. As soon as that comes into your life, you're trying to like gritting your teeth below the surface, so that's a good indicator that you're weak on the positive side. You need more energy. And I don't mean by focus, I mean by deleting all the negative experiences, the collective influences, the psychic energy, the cumulative effect of the negative. And what you're trying to do is displace that across the spectrum, right? So that it becomes an even experience from quote unquote the extreme of the negative all the way to the extreme of the positive, right? And that's how something new can manifest. And then when you change that energy and you get that positive outcome more even, and even positive outcomes of your own positive outcomes and positive outcomes outside of you as well, you want those both neutral. So it's you or not you, or others as well. Then the very next time that same person comes into your world with relaying some kind of positive experience, you can have a very neutral reaction to it. You'll actually have no reaction to it, and you'll say, well, geez, I wonder why I'm no longer pissed about other people succeeding, let's say, as an example. And it'll be because you so neutralize that energy that it doesn't matter to you either way, positive or negative, whether you're positive or negative experience or event, or someone else's positive experience or event, right? So that's the bottom line there. So as I say, the negative thinking is a problem really doesn't pan out. That 85% that we started with really doesn't pan out in the real world. It doesn't pan out in our energy in most cases, right? And the reason why we can assert that is because nothing's changing, right? If we were right about that, then something should change. So if they're right about the 85%, something should change. And for most people, I would say in that place, nothing's changing for them. So that just tells them they're focusing on the wrong thing and it's the wrong answer, basically. So, I kind of talked through this here. We've already talked about it. So we want to get neutral in the second case, the possibility of negatives ending and strengthening accepting evenness of energy among the infinite possibilities. So again, we're evening out that energy. So the deck cards all has the same energy. We pick one, right? We pick an experience. We're not going to attract, we're not going to create, we're not going to perpetuate any particular experience because it's all even energy. So it's not, we're not going to get any particular one, which means we're going to be able to get unstuck, right? So when we're stuck, we're in the same experience for a very, very long time. So when we even out that energy, we have the possibility, the bubbling probability of something new manifesting, and that's the whole point. Okay, so again, the bottom line of this 85% article is to know that we're not going to make any assumptions. We're going to check the energy in all these cases, and we're most likely going to be surprised by the answer we get, right? It's either going to be an opposite, it's going to be a shade or different than what we thought it was. And that would be my, kind of my advice to everyone. And it's kind of my broken record is don't make any assumptions, check the energy, don't make any assumptions, because most likely if your situation isn't changing, your assumption's wrong anyway, right? Most assumptions are wrong, they come from your thinking. So you want to only get it from your energy, and you really want to shift out of your thinking and get it into your feeling and really, you really want to intuit and use your insight to get to the right side of an issue that you need to strengthen, especially when we're talking about neutralities. We're usually talking about dualities, two sides of a particular duality. So, and when we get to neutral, it's not that we're never going to have a negative experience, it's that it's got the same energy now as any positive experience. So overall, you're going to have something that changes, right? Which is really what we want. And we want to, if you're weak to change in general or transitions, I'm going to do a whole series on maybe transitions. Sometimes it's not the positive or negative, but the fact that we have to make some kind of transition. When we even out the energy, the next thing that may go weak and may block someone is the fact that they need to make some kind of transition. So change is one of the elements of the misinterpretation hexagon. Same, not same, different, not different, changing, not changing. But as we change, as we come different, as we become not the same, there is this transition. There's an instantaneous transition, but some people are very weak to having any kind of transition at all. So that may be an underlying issue we need to look at too. It's something I think I need to maybe do a video about or write about. And I may do a few more videos in this series because I think this is a very important thing to look at, the positives and the negatives, because we're so programmed by the conventional thinking and even the alternative ways about positivity, that law of attraction, that kind of thing, that, frankly, they don't get it right, and because they don't check the energy, right? They have a by rote kind of thing that they do. And anything that's doing by rote, you're not using your intuition, you're not using your insight, and you're not going to get the right answer, basically. So the related articles I have here is one about intention and neutrality. It's another non-neutral thing. When we have an intention, people always say set an intention. No, you don't want to set any intention, because you're already biasing the energy, and you're probably not going to get what you say you want, right? If you have a biased intention, right? You want to get the energy neutral and even, and you want to let go of intention. And there's also this article on, knowing. For a lot of folks, just knowing the answer weakens them. So we want to make sure that we're neutral to knowing. And when knowing, in quotes, doesn't matter, that's when things can change as well. You can get answers, and that's when you get shifts. So those are two related articles. So that's basically the paradox of positive thinking. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.